Mizzou travel today was unbelievable. It was phenomenal. When they threw that, whatever that was late in the game, the boos from our fans was unbelievable, and cheering on third downs caused a false start there in the first half. Just really impressive that our Tiger faithful traveled that way and made a big impact. We're very appreciative, and we're very appreciative of everybody for selling out next week's game, and let's keep the momentum going.
And welcome back into the Tiger Kickoff Show presented by the Columbia Missourian. I'm your host, Harrison Vapnek from KOMU Sports, joined alongside the beat writers of the MU football team, Wendell Shepherd, Ryerson, Brandon Haynes, fresh off the trip to Nashville where the Tigers got to 5-0. Gentlemen, how was the weekend?
Fun trip. Mizzou had a good win. We saw some in Nashville. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Getting to the stadium was an absolute mission, though, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I heard the stadium quite isn't SoFi Stadium. It's a little more, under construction still. How was getting in and out of there?
It wasn't great.
A lot of steps.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
It was pretty much a maze. Through the construction, you got construction at both end zones, scoreboard hanging by the cranes. Baseball stadium's connected to the football pretty much, so also you got to navigate through that. It was a trek.
Yeah, we had to walk through the basketball arena, which is also getting renovated. Walk through
They're
there.
renovating the entire school, it seems like. They got a new baseball stadium coming in, too?
Yeah, we had to walk through the arena and then down, and across the field. You can't, we couldn't go up the press box elevator from that side of the stadium.
Yeah, I saw people will have to walk around the baseball field to get into the. It's a whole mess.
That's what we did.
But you know what's not a mess? Missouri Tiger football, who is 5-0 for the first time since 2013. Seems like we're doing a lot of talking about 2013 because the Tigers keep picking up wins, a 38-21 win at Vanderbilt, and the offense keeps getting better. Almost 400 passing yards from Brady Cook, over 100 yards for both Theo Weiss and Luther Burden. Tigers 1-0 in SEC play. Wendell, what's your biggest takeaway from Saturday's win?
We're going to get to a lot of the offense later, but one thing that I think should be a pleasant change for Mizzou fans was to play the secondary. Vanderbilt had a couple of garbage time, explosive play touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but overall they held this Vandy passing attack under wraps the whole game. Only 259 yards passing, and yeah, it was pretty clean play. You got Ennis Rakestraw back. He was a welcome return. But yeah, defense played really well. Only 41 rushing yards, which is really impressive. So
yeah, Adam, back to the offensive side. Luther Burden is looking like one of the best receivers in all of college football, but it's this quarterback who's setting up for that success. Talk about what you've seen from number 12 and number 3 so far this season.
Yeah, I think that the connection between Burden and Cook, I think it's honestly one of the best in the nation. If you look at the stats from last game alone, Brady Cook, 359 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Burden, benefactor of that, 11 receptions, 140 and 2 touchdowns. And he got stopped on the 1-yard line. Could have had a chance for another one, but they called him short. It might not have been short, but, not enough evidence to overturn that one. On the season, Luther Burden is now the leader, the nation's leader in receiving yards, 644 in the air, 43 receptions, 5 touchdowns. Like I said, it could be more. Last game he got stopped on the 1 against Memphis and St. Louis. He also got stopped on the 1. So he's gotten some more opportunities to get in the end zone. Brady Cook also looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. 1,468 passing yards, 74.5% completion percentage, 11 touchdowns, and 3 more on the ground too. He hasn't had to use his legs this year, but he has. When he's gotten a lot of success from it and gotten in the end zone.
And he's not turned the ball over. We saw the stat this week that he broke the SEC record for passing completions or passing attempts without a turnover. It's almost flawless football that Brady Cook is playing, and you're right, it's one of the best performances by any quarterback in the SEC, and I don't think anybody saw this coming, considering, this is our 10th episode. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 were Brady Cook, Sam Horn. Now Sam Horn, it's not even in the discussion anymore. We're closer to talking about Brady Cook for the Heisman than it is for Brady Cook to be the backup quarterback for this team. Yeah. Just crazy how the season swings like that.
It really is. And I think that the thing that you can really look at to be that why Brady Cook has been so good this year is that first touchdown to Luther Burden at the start of the third quarter. Being able to put that pass where he did over 2 defenders, back shoulder in the corner of the end zone, and then Burden being able to have the body control to follow that all the way down, track it, get 2 hands on it, and catch it almost uncontested. There's not a lot of quarterbacks in the nation that can make that throw.
Over to you, Brandon. What were some of the big takeaways from the win against Vanderbilt on Saturday?
Yeah, obviously we talk about a lot of the positives with the offense and defense, but one of the things that Mizzou just needs to continue to work at is putting teams away. While it didn't really get to a one-score game, Vanderbilt got within 10 a couple times in the fourth quarter, just with those explosive plays, and Mizzou needed a defensive stop to at least seal the deal kind of late in the game. So they just need to continue to do that. Overall, the team's been doing well, and it's a little bit different than what Mizzou fans are used to. They're winning one-score games. So there's still a positive in that, but I just think, especially against teams like LSU, you got Georgia coming up, Kentucky, teams like that who are experienced, they come in with a resume similar to yours. You got to be able to put it away in the fourth quarter, and Missouri's offense is good enough to do that. You just got to remain consistent enough.
Yeah, sticking with the offense, it's been the key to the whole turnaround this season. Last year, there was a lot of inconsistencies with the offense. 3 straight games over 400 total yards. Back-to-back games over 500 total yards. Brady Cook has thrown for 300. I think each of the last 3 games. Starting with the star in the offense, Luther Burden III. You mentioned before the show, he's 19 years old, and he's making it look so easy on the field. You actually had a comparison for him with a former college football superstar wide receiver.
Yeah, in terms of body type, build, how they play, Burden's been compared a lot to Deebo Samuel of the 49ers. But in terms of what they've done in college, we're witnessing a Heisman-esque season so far from Luther Burden, much similar to 2020's Heisman winner DeVonta Smith. Through 5 games of the season, Adam mentioned his stats earlier. He has more receptions, yards, and touchdowns than Smith. And he's averaging well over 100 yards a game, receiving almost a touchdown a game so far. Pre-Heisman vote or post-Heisman voting, before the playoff, Smith had 98 receptions, 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns. We'll see if he gets that far, but he's on pace right now, and that's got to be really exciting for Mizzou fans.
And, it might get even almost easier for Burden considering you look at the team they're playing on Saturday. The LSU Tigers, out of 133 FBS teams, they are 130th in passing defense. They're struggling to stop a lot of the nation's maybe average or above average wide receivers. Now they got to play the best wide receiver in college football. So Luther, 200 yards maybe? Imagine that could be like a Heisman moment in early October, tearing apart that team to get the 6-0. We'll talk a lot about that game on Wednesday's show. Adam, what do you think are the keys to the offense's success so far?
It's got to be Kirby Moore. I mean, he has been one of the best, if not the best, offensive coordinator in college football, especially when you look at what he's done to turn this offense from one of the worst in the SEC to one of the best. They're consistently scoring a lot of points. 2 games in a row going over 500 yards, almost got to 500 3 weeks ago against K-State, still went over 400, still put 30 points up. He has been phenomenal. And this last week, he has brought out an amazing game plan, a lot of bunch formations, crossing routes against a pretty solid Vandy secondary that does a lot of mismatching in zone coverage, man coverage, match coverages. And in every single route, it seems like, Coach Drinkwitz said it after the game, it seems like Brady Cook and Kirby Moore both know what's going to happen during the play before it happens. They see the defense, and within a second, it looks like they know where the ball's going. Brady Cook isn't hesitating to throw it, and the wide receivers are doing a great job. Everybody's fast. Every single player is fast. Even Theo Weiss, who's the biggest receiver on the team, can catch any jump ball, any contested ball. He's getting separation. But what they're able to do really well is against zone coverage, they're finding the soft spots of the zone. That means the wide receivers are able to read the defense while they're running their route and digest it and find where the openings are going to be. And I think if they can keep doing that throughout the season, I don't see really a weakness in this Missouri offense right now.
And it feels like the playbook has adapted over time because we saw the first couple of games that it looked a lot like last year's team, but maybe the team needed a couple weeks to get used to the Kirby Moore play calling against actual football teams and not against each other in practice, that they had to soften up in the first couple weeks so everyone can kind of know their roles. And now we've hit Kansas State and Memphis and Vanderbilt, and now we'll see LSU on Saturday. And it just keeps getting more and more, and the players get more comfortable in the scheme, I think, has a big part of it. Brandon, over to you. In terms of key to the success, we talked about early in the year after the Middle Tennessee State game that there were like 2 or 3 catches by receivers not named Luther Burden III. It is a completely different story now, almost as much as the Cook Heisman different story. Marquise Johnson, Mookie Cooper, Theo Weiss, as we mentioned, all of these guys are now getting involved, and I feel like it's changing the offense.
Yeah, definitely. We saw kind of all 4 of those guys step up in their separate ways on Saturday. One thing that was interesting was without Mekhi Miller, figured maybe the offense missed a beat. Did not at all. Kind of against that. Theo Weiss kind of stepped up, 10 for 118 and a touchdown to complement Burden's 11 catches for 140 and 2 touchdowns. That combination right there is just quite unique because Burden's speed and athleticism just kind of sets up Weiss's big ball ability and downfield. And when you have a player like Burden, it takes so much of the attention off the other players. I mean, you got Marquise Johnson now as well with the speed extending the field. That way Theo can kind of work in the middle of the field and then work into the out routes in the end zone. I mean, you're seeing just this team play complementary football with the receiving core. And I think that's something that we haven't seen. I mean, we talked about the receiving group just being a special group coming into this year, but to actually see it in the way they're doing it, just with the multitude of guys and who's stepping up and who's making a name for himself, it's kind of impressive just with what the question marks surrounding Brady Cook coming into the year, the question marks surrounding the running game, just to see the proven success that they've had is kind of just something that Mizzou fans I don't think have seen, and it's kind of unique to see.
Everything seems perfect right now. We talk about the offense is hitting on all cylinders. The defense is taking improvements up. Has the ceiling changed for this team? Because before the year we were talking 6-6, 7-5, 8-4, maybe at best. What do you think the ceiling has changed for this team in terms of expectation?
I think so. I mean, before the season, I predicted 8-4, and I had them starting 5-0. So I think this next game, you're facing another. Well, prior to their loss, was a top 15 team in LSU. This is your first really true test that you're at home. I mean, Kansas State was a test, obviously, but in conference play, it's a different beast. And you're going up against, some of the nation's best players at their positions. So I think this, if they can put together the same kind of performances they've been showing against this LSU team, I think 9-10 wins is in the cards.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of awards, Adam, I know it's not even halfway through the season, but every Mizzou fan is talking Burden Blitnikoff for the best receiver. Chris Abrams-Drain is now a Thorpe Award candidate. Even Kirby Moore for the Boyles Award for the best assistant coach. Eli Drinkwitz for SEC Coach of the Year. Are awards kind of in the play for the Tigers at this point in the season and seeing how things might project going forward, or are we jumping to too many conclusions?
I don't think we're really jumping to too many conclusions. It's fun to speculate, so why not do it?
Yeah.
Right? The Heisman, that's the one where it's a little out of reach as of right now, but the good thing for Brady Cook is that the SEC is more wide open than it has been in the last several years. There's not a team that looks unbeatable like Georgia over the last 2 years. So if Missouri is going to get as many awards as people would want them to, then they're going to need to be either a top 10 team and win the SEC East, and definitely maybe win the SEC even, if they want to be at those top level of award competitions, right? I think that they are in a spot to do it. I'm not going to say that they are going to do it, but like you said, we were talking about how Mizzou needs to finish better than 6-6. They have 5 wins in 5 weeks. They're going to finish better than 6-6.
We hope so.
We hope so. We hope so. But they do have a really, really tough matchup coming up this week, and I think it's going to set the tone for the rest of the season. But for awards right now, I think Chris Abrams-Drain is probably the front runner of any player on the team. In the last 3 games, he's gotten an interception in each of them. He has several pass breakups, and he looks like we said in the beginning of the season, one of the best cornerbacks in the nation.
Brandon, I'm going to ask you the tough question. SEC championship, even a trip to the SEC championship, is it in the cards? Because Georgia, they've played 2 SEC games so far this season. They've trailed at halftime in both, to South Carolina at home and to Auburn. Florida doesn't look very good. Kentucky is 5-0 as well. They've only played 1 SEC game against Florida. Tennessee looks a little shaky. And we mentioned South Carolina is already a couple games below 500 in conference. Is it out of the cards that Missouri can win the East?
No, it's not out of the cards because they're undefeated right now. Now, that could change starting with LSU on Saturday. I think that's a game you circle, but at this point, almost every game's your Super Bowl if you're Missouri. I mean, we've seen it talked about by fans. But
fans love that term. That's their favorite term is the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so we've seen it by fans, but in all reality, you got to keep on winning. If you want a shot at that SEC championship, I mean, you got LSU, you got Kentucky, you got Georgia, you got Tennessee, you got South Carolina. You got to take care of everybody. Yeah. And so, no, it's not out of the question, but kind of like with what Drinkwitz is talking about, that 1-0 mentality, they've got to keep it. I mean, if you look too far ahead, you'll get caught behind. And one example is a few years ago, obviously last year, I think of Barry Odom. You start 5-1, you finish 6-6, and that's something you just got to remember. Just try not to get too ahead of yourself because anything's possible.
Yeah, anything might be possible. This team, we mentioned the SEC East Championship. The first SEC East Championship for this Missouri team came in 2013. There's been a lot of ties between 2023 and 2013. So we have a little Tiger trivia for you guys on comparing these two teams through 5 weeks. You guys ready?
Yeah, Brandon's.
Which team between 2013 and 2023 had the most points scored through 5 games? 2013 played, I think, Murray State. They played Indiana. They played Vanderbilt was ironically their 5th game also, and then at Indiana, there was another non-conference.
They played Memphis too, didn't they?
No.
Which team in the last 10 years?
Yeah, in terms of which of those two teams scored more
those two
points.
teams.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
This is just 2013 or 2023 is your answer.
2013.
2013.
I'm going current team.
2013 scored 73 more points
Bang.
through 5 games. What about on the other side? Points allowed between 2013 and 2023.
I don't know about this one.
I'm going to go 2023.
I'm going to go 2013 again.
2013.
2023 allowing 104 points. 2013 gave up 112 points. So less points for this year's team through 5 games. What about 300-yard passing games from the starting quarterback this year, Brady Cook? It was James Franklin in 2013. What's up with more 300-yard passing games through 5 games?
I'm going to say Brady Cook.
I'm going to say Brady Cook.
Brady Cook.
Brady Cook 3, James Franklin 2.
Let's go.
Cook has done in the last 3 games, his first 3 300-yard games, as we mentioned. What about 100-yard wide receivers? So not 100-yard wide receiver games, but different receivers with 100 yards between 2013 and 2023.
Multiple, like Burden's.
A player to
multiple.
have 100 yards in a game.
Okay. Ooh.
So Burden only counts for 1.
Burden only counts
Two
for
for
1.
Mizzou.
So there's 2 from Mizzou. It's Weiss and Burden. I think
Well, it's Mizzou's both of them, so.
Well, you're right. 2013 or 2023. It's Weiss and Burden. I'm gonna go 2013.
I'm going to go 2013 as well.
Can I guess it's a trick question? It's a tie.
Oh, smart guy. 2013 had 2, Doyle Green Beckham and Lucas. 2023 with Theo Weiss and Luther Burden. Last one, interceptions forced by the defense. 2023 versus 2013.
So we have 4 this year.
5. Wait, no. Yeah, 4. You're right.
Chris Ames ran 3 of them.
Yeah.
We'll go 2013.
I'm gonna go 2013 as well.
I'll say 2023.
2013 with 11.
Oh, wow.
This season, I think they picked off their Murray State like 5 times in that. It's a very inflated number. That's another edition of Tiger Trivia. We'll definitely hit that up later in the season. That is our episode for today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back later this week to preview the massive game between the Tigers and the Tigers. Missouri hosting LSU. Hopefully have another one of our taste tests. Stay tuned for that. We'll see you next time on the Tiger Kickoff Show.